first speaker is actually originally from Tulsa, and a lot of you know this gentleman. I have interacted with him a few times over the years, but something I did not know is his vast business experience, including things that he told me we should not mention, but one of those is a power equipment deal. Yeah, don't ask. One of those is a power equipment dealership. He is also a private lender and has assets in many classes, and today he is going to be teaching you about something that was actually requested by the audience a few months ago, which is commercial development. So he's going to be telling you about this deal that he is putting together right now. Can we please give it up for Scott Henderson? Warm welcome to Scott Henderson.
I'm going to get some more coffee, but while I do that, let's start off with a little vocal. I'm going to say something, and you guys are going to repeat it, not to be too cheesy, but this didn't come from me. I say hooty hoo, and you say hooty hoo back. Hooty hoo! That was horrible. Hooty hoo! Man, this is a rough crowd. I was hoping for a higher pitch. I didn't get it. How's everybody doing? Great. Good. So we're going to talk about commercial development. So yes, I'm from Tulsa. I don't share my story a lot. For those who know me really well, I can talk your ear off. For those who don't know me, might be a little more reserved. So I've been in real estate for 12 years. Started in 2013, doing a flip here, a flip there. A couple years into it, started doing a lot of buy and hold, mostly residential, single family homes, and then small apartment complexes, and then commercial land, and it's just kind of, that's been my natural progression. So, always been a business guy, different businesses, not just real estate. Who wants to hear a war story, a horrible business that I was in? Anybody? Yeah. We all have bumps and bruises or scars or worse, we all have them. So when I was flipping one house at a time, not using private money, using banks, putting down 20%, I thought it would have been a great idea, this is what I told my wife, to have an online shop. Few people know what the business was. Right? Do you remember? Okay. I can tell you selling women's hats is not a great idea online. You can imagine how that went, not so well. Sold it a couple years later. But one thing I did take away from that is I learned how organic SEO worked. Not that I'm a master at it, but I learned it. What H tags are, and having other businesses that has kind of come full circle and has helped. So that's one of many war stories. And so when I started flipping, first house was cash, and then I started doing some financing on other projects. But yeah, that's kind of been my natural progression, and we're going to talk about this development that we've got going on. So the details, who is going direct to seller? Anybody? Hands? Okay. Is it better? A lot better. Why is it better? That's good, Mike. Cut out the middleman. Now, we like the middlemen when they bring us deals. There's nothing wrong with that. We still need them. They provide value, but cutting out the middleman. So, found this deal, older guy, 90 years old. Took me 6 months. I went to his house 4 times. And then he tried to back out. Still talk to him sometimes. But we got seller financing. I'll get the financing a little bit. So it's 1,200 feet, linear feet, off of Portland. 22,000 cars a day. It's the first parcel outside of the city limits. The household income is really, really good. and we're doing 3 phases. So this is a small development. This is not a massive, big development. This is small. So the financing, I got 90% of it as a seller carry at 4.5%. And over 30 years, I believe, no, 9 years. Sorry, and $100,000 down, 3.9 per foot. So the dirt is probably, now that we've done value add, $10 a foot, roughly, 9, maybe 8 on the absolute low end. And then on the financing, post stabilization, or actually the construction to stabilization, it's both. It'll be 7.25, 18 months IO, interest only, a half a point, and it'll be a 25-year AM, and it's not the lesser of the two. It'll be at 80%, and bank requirements are typically 1.25. What else are you guys seeing out there? Better deals? Better terms? Okay. Oh, the seller told me that he was going to work with me on the seller carryback if I improved the value of the land. So we improved it by the dirt work, the utilities, and I went back to him and I said, hey, I did my job. I improved the property. And he said, call my attorney. And the attorney said, no go. So I planned on using him to help me on the financing because I really did not want to give up the 4.5%. So I had to pivot, went to a local bank. The local bank is going to do a takeout. They're not going to be in a second lien position. And so I'm getting rid of, unfortunately, 4.5%, but that's sometimes how it works. Income statistics. So this starts where the property is located. And you can see, this is off some website, census data. We got 6 out of the 10 zip codes. Highest zip codes, household income in the area are right there. So 22,000 cars a day. First parcel outside of city limits, 4.5%. What's the sales tax rate on city right now? 8.625, give or take a little bit, depending on where you're at. So this is prime for retail. Prime for retail. Utilities. When you're doing a development, and this is my first, I've done historical tax projects, apartments, I've built a custom home, I've done a few other projects like that. But as far as development, this is my first true ground up all the way through vertical development. So I don't know it all. In fact, there's probably a lot of guys here that know a lot more than me. So I don't know why in the world they asked me to speak mine. But utilities is really, really big. You can really get screwed up on this. So you've got to know the utility situation, and at least before you close, during your due diligence. Where are the utilities located? How far are they? Who's going to pay for it? Is it you? Is it the utility company? Are you getting some type of waiver from a county or a city? So our utilities for OG&E is right across the street. They have to bore underneath the ground. So normally you get credits. And the credits are based off, it depends on which utility company it is. But for OG&E, it's based off of type of power, type of units, how many meters. So my contact at OG&E called me back and he goes, you're going to owe us about 13 grand. And I said, what's going on? And he said, this much power and this. So would you take into consideration the northern part of the development? And he said, no. He said, well, how many meters do you have? And I said, well, I have a drafts person, and she's got a document she sent me and I have like an extra 12 meters. He goes, great, just send it to me. Okay, so it went from 13,000 down to 0. ONG, we're going to bring it over as well. There's a development just southeast of there, residential. I think it's probably R4 plus, so either apartments or duplexes. They're going to create a 10-foot easement off the back. OG&E, we also created an easement going east-west of the property. I have the site map, I'll show it to you. Water. Water is a big one, especially for Deer Creek. I know a few of you live in Deer Creek. Anybody other than Russell lives in Deer Creek? Okay. How much is your meter when you ask for it? On the residential side, not commercial. When you buy a home in Deer Creek, you have to have a waiver from the previous seller, otherwise they're going to charge you. Last time I heard it was $4,000 just for the meter. You don't really hear about that in Oklahoma City or even Del City. $4,000.
That's not
So-
the meter. That's the meter's already there. You still have to pay.
You still have
That's for the water rights.
just for the rights?
Yeah.
But you have to get a waiver, right?
Well, if they can sign over their rights,
Right, and if they don't,
then you pay.
$4,000
Yeah.
or more. That was a few years ago. So there's a 2-inch water line that goes all the way north Portland to almost the southern part of the parcel. And 2 inches is it's not big enough for what I need, especially with the tenant that's a H3 glass type classification of what they're handling. I needed 6 inches. Well, Deer Creek takes forever, but that's kind of any municipal government, or state government, or federal government. It just takes forever. So time is your biggest enemy. Okay, and it's not just real estate; it's business in general. We all have the same enemy. It's time. There's only so much time in the day to get stuff done. So it's our job and our responsibility to figure out what we're good at. And if you're the business owner, that should be revenue. 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 Okay? So do what the revenue tells you to do. Of course, good business, ethical business, but you've got to be in the right seat to grow the company. So I decided, well, screw that. I don't want to deal with Deer Creek. I'm just going to drill a commercial well. So there's some weird rules with DEQ. It's a complicated formula, but you can't have any more than 25 employees on the well. And there's like usage rates and ETA systems for the septic. But basically, if I'm under 25 employees, or if you're under 25 employees, it's a minor. The short version is I have to do a permit, or I have an application, and I don't even have to do the minor permit. So it's a win-win. And then you put some stickers on the glass in the bathroom that says non-potable water. And then AT&T is also on site in the easement. I know, is there a zoom function on this? No, it's kind of hard to see. Yeah, that's fine.
Probably not.
Okay, no worries. So we have phase 1 here, phase 2, roughly 1 acre, and phase 3. Remember when I said during your due diligence, know everything, whether it be easements or utilities? I got really lucky. I was very fortunate. This is a gas line that goes clear across the property. Active. They wanted $80,000 to reroute it last year. Yeah, that's a lot. So I said no, I'll just build around it. And then they came back to me, and I found out because so that's north and this is south. The development that is southeast, they had already put in a Oklahoma City sewer line. So I called them back and I said, hey, what's going on? I see your riser has been cut off and capped. And they didn't really tell me the whole situation, but their price of $80,000 went down to $6,000. So from a liability perspective, I couldn't cut that check quick enough, but I still got scammed for $6,000. So this is still 5.2 acres, 5.82 acres. It'll be a lot split, so we already have the legals. You have an easement that runs across the fence line along 74, at roughly 20 feet. There's going to be another easement in the back for your gas. We got rid of the gas easement. And there's going to be an easement on this property line that's moving south, all the way 10 foot, and the transformer is going to be set in the back. Okay, so these are the things when you're doing a development. Again, I don't know it all, but when you're doing a development, you have to deal with. So the transformer is going to be here. You're going to have an easement. These two circles are your tanks, your water tanks, because the tenant, another business that I have is fireworks. That's going to be in this middle building. So I don't have a 6-inch line because I need so many gallons per minute to feed the fire suppression system on an H3 classification. So the workaround is to have the storage tanks. Each storage tank is 12,500 gallons. So that'll feed the fire suppression system and whatever the state requires. We'll have septic close by as well. So the septic is here, it's going to be moved here, and then our well is going to be where the septic is. So your well and your septic have to be at least 50 feet apart. When you're doing your septic, you have to do a soil test. And on the soil test, it goes like levels 1 through 5. This is a level 5 on the soil test. So that just means that certain systems are certain levels, and level 5 is an ETA. It's where they dig, they'll trench a 2 foot by 2 foot, and your lateral lines have to be so far, and it all goes back to gallons per minute and how the soil releases the sewage through the air. One thing I went back and forth with county on was a detention pond. This thing in the northern corner, right here. And on that detention pond, I got it included in the dirt work. The total bill ran the grading, the dirt work, the detention pond, about $120,000. So there is easily $200,000 in hard costs just to prep the site, do the subdivide, the different phases, not including the purchase price. I know we're going to reserve questions for the end, but does anybody have any questions specifically on utilities or looking at the site map?
So you said you don't know anything about this going in. How did you discover what you needed to get this far in the project?
On the utilities?
On the dirt work, on everything you've had to do. If you didn't have the knowledge going in, you had to acquire it some way.
My timeline was January of 25. That was when I had to start paying the $10,000 a month to the seller. So I had a year to figure out what in the world am I going to do. I didn't know what I wanted to do. All I knew was that it was a really good deal and that I could make something of it. That's the honest to goodness truth. Fireworks was not a thing. And the southern tenant and southern property phase 2 was not a thing either at that time. So I was sitting on land that I felt good about. I was in it for at least less than 50 cents on the dollar, as is pre-development on the land.
What kind of survey did you have done to show your
I just hired a local surveyor, licensed surveyor, and he's been out to the job site multiple times. I've probably botched this along the way. It keeps coming out, but he's not that expensive. I told him what I wanted to have done. We've moved the lot lines according to where the concrete curbs are and things like that. So the value add, we talked a little bit about this earlier, but we have utilities. One thing I didn't mention was billboard easements and ODOT permits. So I'll go back. The only access was the southern entrance right here, which is actually halfway in an easement. So you can see where that iron bar is, that's the actual lot line. So with ODOT, I got 2 more permits. It only took 2 weeks to add on the 2 different phases. Huge value add. And the best part about one of the 2 on the ads is that you can go northbound and southbound, both ways, off the highway. That's big for retail, or just traffic in general. This one's a little off, but you could make it work. Billboards. So who knows David Box? 1, 2, there's probably a couple more. Who is he? He's an investor?
Zoning attorney.
Zoning attorney. I think there's a couple of David Boxes. He might be the same guy. Yeah, he's a zoning attorney. So he's downtown, and he is, in my opinion, probably one of the best, or the best, zoning attorney. He might be a little bit more expensive. I had this conversation with somebody else the other day, but we're talking negligible. Okay? Why does it matter to have the right zoning attorney on your side? He's a lobbyist, right? He has all the relationships with everybody in the city council or the Oklahoma County Board or you name it city around. So, I don't know if he's having beers with them after hours. I don't care. I just know that he has all the relationships. That's all I care about. So he was hired to do a spud on this. I think it was zoned agricultural prior to acquisition. We got the spud approved. In addition, he was also hired to do billboards. And surprisingly, he got them both approved. He said it was the first time in 15 years that he's been able to get billboards approved in Oklahoma County, unincorporated land, which there's not many of those. You got some areas on I-40 going east. You have this, and I think there's maybe 1 or 2 others. So those easements for the billboards are going to be here in the corner, close to the detention pond, which was already kind of a waste of an area, so that was a good placement. And then we have another one that's going to go in right here. So the billboards, it still allows you, based on the ordinances, to put business signage. So you can still have business signage here, or business signage there, or even on the buildings as well. So that was a big value add, mostly to the tenants than the landlord. Okay, so this is the middle parcel. They poured concrete a couple weeks ago, Monday at 3 a.m. I was not there at 3 a.m. The concrete cured for 7 days. Some people like to see 14. 7's good enough. And then the red iron went up last week and this week, and now they're working on the sides. Plumbers already misplaced the toilets. Yeah. That was a good day. Here's a rendering. 6,000 square feet. Now if you look, I don't know if I have the floor plan. Let's see. Okay, here's the floor plan. It's not exact, right? There's always on the field changes and things like that. So one is we're not doing these overhead doors. The glass frontage is no longer recessed. It's now up front. But it is built to have a suite A and a suite B. So always have multiple exit strategies. Always, always, always. When you're buying a single family home for $150,000, do you have multiple exit strategies?
Yes.
Yeah, you can probably flip. Maybe close to being a rental, depending upon what you bought it for. Airbnb, I don't know if I like that exit strategy anymore. But you can have 2 meters on the back, and you could subdivide it A, B, 1, 2 if you need to. Building 2. So the second one I touched on earlier. I didn't know, going back to I think it was your question, what I was going to do. So we closed on a lawn equipment dealership, or Pro Power equipment dealership last fall. It's out in Hera. And it too has a sales tax rate of 4.5%. So some of you guys know Rick Austin. He's out there. He's doing a great job. He's running it for us. And you can see that this is mostly my work on the drawings. and not an actual architect. So it's going back for some revisions. I think one of the keys in real estate is to be vertical as much as you can. You're never going to own everything. You're not going to own the metal company, or the concrete company, or any of that. But you've got to make sure that you're getting new bids. I don't care if you've worked with the concrete guy or your electrician for 10 years. I don't care. I mean, maybe he went through a life event and now he's charging more. Maybe they popped up on multiple billboards. Personally, outside of maybe Aquawell, I don't call people on billboards. They're overhead. It's too high. Is your contractor driving a brand new truck? Sorry for the contractors in here that have brand new trucks. Or their kids go to all private schools? That is fine. I'm not shaming that at all. All I'm saying is that I don't want to go home with my personality and say, I'm paying for da-da-da-da-da. So just always requote. Now, if you're comfortable with somebody and you know what the market is, that's fine. You don't have to requote. But it's still, do your best to cut costs wherever you can. So the dirt was 120, and I was quoted anywhere from 180 to 225. So if you say yes to every single invoice or every single quote or estimate that comes in, you do not have a viable project from the very beginning, potentially. So this is the floor plan on the retail dealership. You have a massive retail showroom. You've got a warehouse, parts, storage, and a couple offices and bathrooms. So I'm going to go back to the site map. Not that anybody cares exactly of this business, but you have your building, which this says 10,000, but it's actually 12,000. This gravel area no longer has a gas easement. There'll be fencing here, and then you'll have another overhead industrial, not fully enclosed. So that way the guys can go from parts and storage and maintenance straight out the door for more storage. So when you're, whether it be real estate or you're selling donuts, right? Anybody here, I'm sure, knows what Six Sigma is? Is that it? Six what? Anyway, yeah, thank you. It's all about efficiency. So if somebody is taking 20 steps and somebody else is taking 100 steps, I want to reduce that footprint every single time, right? I don't want people to be on their phones unless they're social media managers. I want people working and being efficient, because if they're not, then they're doing something else. So how much waste can you cut out? So in the floor plan, it was all, okay, where's the storage going to be? Where's maintenance going to be? Where are the parts going to be? Where's the counter going to be? Do we want the counter? Do you want your parts counter up at the front? Or do you want the parts counter close to the parts room? You're going to want it close by. It's just those extra steps. It's a psychological thing too for the employees. Any questions? Either site plan or floor plans. Oh, last slide. Were you okay on time? Okay. So, talked a lot about the development. If you found any value, you could support me and my companies and all the employees that provide for their families and their mouths here. Any of those businesses. If you need lending, you can scan the QR code with your phone. Or if you need a mower next year, maybe you go to Edmond. Highway 74. Oh, yeah, Mike's lawn. Yeah. It'll probably be called something else in the Edmond location. And then fireworks. So that's what the first building is, and we should be up and running this July. Anybody learn anything?
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions?
Did you use an architect or you didn't want it?
So in Oklahoma County, you don't have to use like a certified architect. I use a draftsperson. She was $45 an hour, and she made some mistakes, and I'm now on Upwork.com. Even cheaper than $45 an hour. Yeah. But they'll get the plans right. So actually, there's a bunch of architects on Upwork or onlinejobs.ph. Onlinejobs.ph is the Filipino Upwork for their country.
How about the rendering?
The rendering, same. So the same girl that's now doing the floor plan on building 2 did the 3D rendering. And that 3D rendering is, it's not 100%. It was something quick that she got to us in about a day. So, $100. You're talking about the 3D one? Yeah.
How did you find the seller of the land?
Yeah. Straight up, direct to seller. It was not from a list. It wasn't put it in a system and cold call. It wasn't door knocking. It was, I liked the property. I looked them up and I called them. And called them and called them and called them and called them. So, yeah.
What do you think is in the third business?
We're gonna keep it vacant for now. So there's a lot going on there, and we start adding more products like trailers or small equipment. Small equipment meaning like skid steers, telehandlers, things like that. You have 1,200 linear feet. That's a lot of runway for visibility. A lot of runway. And what we found out in Hera is the 4.5%, that matters. So we've promoted that a little bit. And if you're B2B and you need to buy 10 commercial mowers and they're each $10,000, what did you just say? About $5,000? And so that's the bottom line. Now it doesn't matter for schools or municipalities or any of those types of institutions, but it does matter for the for-profit business that's paying tax. So, until another idea, right?
Will you hold it long term?
Yeah. Hold it long term. One thing I didn't mention on the site plan, I'll go back to it. So I don't know if anybody caught this, but there's one well and there's one septic tank. So the parcel, phase 1 and phase 2 are going to have a cross agreement on the utilities. And by keeping them combined, you probably saved $50,000. And that's just like your initial savings. That's not even long-term savings. So that's completely above board, doable, DEQ. There's no issues there.
What's your plan on how you're going to landlord these properties?
So the first two, both the tenants, I also own the businesses as well. So going back to being vertical, I didn't wake up one morning and just say, I want to be in the fireworks business. I want to blow some up. Sure, that's fun, but I went to a conference, shortened the learning curve, right? Going back to time. Time is our number one enemy. Number one. So shortening that is whether, it could be a mastermind, it could be a conference, it could be something like this tonight. So that's what I did. Went out there, took my brother-in-law, and we're like, yeah, this industry is primed for a reckoning because everybody who does fireworks are like 60 years old. They don't have a website. They don't do social media. They pop up once a year for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and that's it. So I knew that location was the key for that business, and I knew that there's going to be turnover. So most of these guys probably won't even sell. I'm not sure it's really sellable until you're you have sales that probably exceed 3 to 5 million on an annualized basis. So, and then on the power equipment business, I got into real estate because I had a landscaping company. So I sold it, and that's how I started. So being on the other side, being the dealer, you know, yeah, I know how to change spark plugs and belts. I'm not going to do that, but I at least know that, right? So the only thing that really lacked there was just the floor plan knowledge on the financing. But other than that, everything was, yeah, it's kind of it was just a puzzle.
Scott, I can't be the only one wondering this, but would you be able to give a brief overview of the types of team members that you would need in order to accomplish this? As far as digging in, you said make sure to check everything when you're talking about the easements and all that. Who do you need in order to accomplish development?
Someone who knows what they're doing. So I'm GCing it myself. Okay. So it's not if, it's when you have cost overruns, because I'm sure I will, based on the budget that you give the bank. It's just going to eat away at the GC fee. So I'm not going to take a GC fee until the project is completely done. But if you were going to hire a GC, you need to hire, and this goes back, hire a reputable GC. How do you find a reputable GC? I'll tell you how I found my concrete guy here. If I recall correctly, concrete guy that I've been using was MIA. Go figure, right? So I called a couple people, and one phone call led to another, and this guy's like, yeah, he's done several projects for me. This was a small developer, mostly residential, and I really like his work. Why do you like his work? Because his concrete doesn't crack a couple weeks after the plumbing. So, okay, that's a good start. So what else does he do for you? Oh, small driveways, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, has he done any commercial? I think so, but it's probably small. Okay, so I gave the guy a call. And then I went to his job site. Showed up to his job site. Now, if you're that guy, that concrete guy, you're thinking, who is the person that just calls me randomly and shows up to my job site? Of course, with permission. Not a lot of people do that. But what are you doing when you are doing that? You're building trust. Because he'll never forget that I showed up and looked at his job site and talked to his guys. He showed up at 3 a.m. on a Monday. I was not there at 3 a.m. on a Monday. Okay? So he was $1 a foot. Now that doesn't include rebar, doesn't include $500 for the skid steer, pushing some dirt, doesn't include a few of those things, but the labor was $1 a foot. That's a good price. Is that a good price? Somebody else? Yeah? Okay. And it's smooth. Now, I had plumber issues. I moved the toilet, but that goes back to the GC. So how do you find somebody to do it? You would have to do the same thing with a GC. Verify their work. Talk to other people. Get the references. Because if you don't, it's not if, it's when you're going to get screwed. It's going to happen. I've been there. I could talk about multiple projects I wish I never bought, or multiple projects I wish I would have bought. So you just have to do your homework, right? So before you go in for a math test, not to bring you guys back to high school or college, did you study? Now someone's going to say, no, I didn't have to. Okay, look, you're smarter than me, all right? But I had to study. So, yeah, just fully vertical. As far as the businesses go, it's different. I firmly believe that if you are an above average hirer, you're already above 75% of your competition. You always have to be hiring. Always. I hate hiring. I'm horrible at it. I might be good with people and good at sales and can talk and communicate, but hiring, I'm a loser. I'm horrible. I've gotten better as time has gone on. Rick has helped me out a lot with this. Rick came from the restaurant industry where, he's managing hundreds of employees and things like that. And Russell knows this about me, but my personality, if you get me going, I'll talk your ear off and I may complain a little bit. I am not a good, I don't have the vision for solid talent, but I've gotten better. And so if you're better at hiring somebody, then you're already that next leg up. Because the worst thing that could happen, now I experienced this multiple times in property management. Who has rentals in here? A lot of people. Okay, do you self-manage? How many people self-manage? Raise your hand. Okay, how many people have a third-party management company? Okay, so I'm not knocking third-party management companies. We need them.
Go ahead, knock them.
Alan's like, I'll get
Alan
mine.
needs help.
I did it 3 times. And each time I either fired them or they fired me. But that also goes to who I am as a person and why I never made it in corporate world. First year of marriage, fired 3 times. Who could say that? Yeah. That's pretty bad, isn't it, Mike?
Not fired from your marriage.
No, not fired from a job. 3 times. So I wasn't built for that. I was built for doing this. And it's my love and that's my passion. So yes, I think hiring is huge. So going back to the original question, vertical hiring. So with the lawn equipment dealership, Rick he's probably one of the best hires I've ever had because he's good with people. I can talk with customers for a few minutes or temps for a few minutes, but after that, I'm mentally I'm checked out. Fireworks, that's not a 24/7, 365 business. That's a there's municipal and there's state regulation. It really reverts to the state, as most of the municipal cities are deferring to the state, so they outsource it because you have to have like your own team and all that stuff. But it's basically the selling season is June 15th through July 6th. And then you can sell 2 weeks at the end of the year for New Year's. But if you have a building, you can sell anytime you want. But then you have to have certain fire suppression. There's a cost to it.
We
So-
have one more question.
Yeah.
Do we have one more? I think we can talk on that.
Where is that development?
It's not far from you. So that's Cobell and 74. You're Waterloo. So 2 miles-ish. Yeah. 74. Thank you guys.